How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be talking to you about pre-travel weather in relation to Aviation 340. So the aircraft of the day is going to be a Cessna 172. It's going to be a P model. The gross takeoff weight, wet and loaded, so it's fully loaded with all the equipment as well as our passenger, which is my flight instructor, and wet, meaning it's fueled up. It's going to be 2173.8 pounds. It does include 240 pounds of fuel since the fuel tank is 40 gallons, and the fuel is about 6 pounds per gallon. And 8.1 gallons per hour is going to be expected usually from at for 2,500 RPM at the top of the green arc, but today we're going to do 6.3 2,200 at our cruise, which is going to be plus 6 degrees Celsius over standard, so about 22 degrees Celsius. And then it does take 5 minutes to reach our top of climb, and 2.3 gallons burned, including fuel, to reach to that point of the cross country. Additional 1 gallon for each stop. I also cited 91-151. No person shall begin a flight in an airplane under VFR conditions unless they have enough fuel to fly to the first point of intended landing and assume normal cruising speed. So we're only going to be flying during the day. Takeoff is scheduled for 8 a.m. Meaning at least 30 minutes of excess fuel if you needed to make an emergency landing, get another airfield, and we do have enough for our current flight plan today. So the flight plan in question, we're going from Lakeland all the way to Gainesville and then to St. Augustine. Distance traveled from first airport all the way to our second is going to be 103 nautical miles at 2,200 RPM. We'll be flying at about 4,500 feet. And then the second stop is going to be over in St. Augustine, so that's going to be 53 nautical miles, roughly the same, 2,200 RPM, and around 3,500 feet. I chose those altitudes because 91-159 states VFR cruising altitudes or flight level when operating below 1,800, so you're not going to be in Class Alpha airspace, you're just flying VFR. When going between 0 and 179, you're going to need to stay in any odd thousands plus 500. And then from 180 to 359, you're going to stay at any even foot plus 500. So this is the diagram of the Lakeland Leonard International Airport's Class Delta, as well as every single airport that we're going to be flying into today. And we do have enough runway at each airfield in order to conduct flight operations. And so departing weather is going to be VFR. There's no ceiling. As I said, it's going to be 72 degrees Fahrenheit, 7 degrees above standard in Celsius. Density altitude 1299. The wind's going to be out of the north at 3 knots. And so our en route weather, referring back to 91-155, basic VFR minimums, all Class Delta airspaces require 3 statute miles of visibility, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and then 2,000 feet horizontal, or personal minimums, I suppose. And then en route to each Class Delta, you're going to be flying through Class G, or Class Echo, which just means clear of clouds. And so weather data and breakdown. Upon initial departure of Lakeland, IFR conditions are expected at Gainesville, as you can see by the yellow on the prog chart, but it's to dissipate roughly around our arrival at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then following our departure of Gainesville, our VFR conditions are expected over at our next point of landing, which is over in St. Augustine. They're going to be expected from the north, so it's going to be off of our left-hand side when we're en route, so its wind's going to be shifting slightly. But due to the sea breeze as well as the uneven heating at the surface on the ground, on the ground, it will kind of lead to a little bit of different, or you're going to be flying into some increased winds. So arrival at St. Augustine, it's going to be VFR conditions. Winds are supposed to be from the north, as stated before, at about 8 knots, and then increasing steadily over every hour or so up until it reaches, I think the forecast was for up to 17 knots, which is pretty high. I would not be flying in that. And then increasing until later in the afternoon. And then once arrived, find your parking spot, grab some coffee and refuel. So I did some biblical integration. I did Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make straight your paths. This is good because you want to make sure that you are aware of all the weather whenever you're flying to your destinations, and make sure you get the most out of your flight service station so you can get a good standard briefing and you have a good picture of what you're going to be flying into. Thank you. Thank you. How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be talking to you about pre-travel weather in relation to Aviation 340.